Super Bowl 56 Sunday evening, Rams and Bengals. I mentioned this entering the break. Cowboys in Super Bowl 27 beat the Bills, then went to Atlanta, beat the Bills, and then 2 years later, of course, beats Pittsburgh in Arizona as three out of 4 years. It has started at the Rose Bowl in L.A. It's been so long. Jon Machota, theathletic.com. John, I ask questions sometimes to former players or whatever, but it's staggering. The Bengals are now in it. The Browns and Lions never have been. Houston, of course, never has been. And then right after that, it's crazy that Washington and Dallas are coming down the pipeline as the longest droughts of being and winning a Super Bowl.
It is crazy. I was just looking at that the other day, that I think it's down to like 6 teams in the last 25 years that haven't made an AFC or NFC championship game. Obviously, the Cowboys are in that. And then the Super Bowl, I want to say, I think it's at 11 now in the last 25 years. There's only 11 teams that haven't appeared in the Super Bowl in the last 25 years, so that's a third of the league. But so that means 2/3 of the league has at least played in one Super Bowl since the last time the Cowboys did. And if you look at a league that it's supposed to be parity-driven, it just would make no sense that the Cowboys don't at least get back to another Super Bowl over those 25 years. But, hey, we are.
John, it's draft time for the Cowboys now. I mean, that's what everything has to be because the playoffs have been long since over. Outside of offensive line, which is, obviously something they're going to have to work on, what do you think would be the biggest need that you would want them to get fixed?
Well, the offensive line, if you're just going by who's technically on the roster right now, but if they decide to part ways with DeMarcus Lawrence and somehow he's not on the roster, then I think edge rusher immediately gets put right at the top of the list for me. It's so hard to find quality edge rushers. Well, reason being, that's why I don't think it'd be a great move to get rid of DeMarcus Lawrence. But if that is to happen, that shoots right up there. Because, yeah, Micah Parsons can rush the passer, but Dan Quinn wants Micah Parsons on the field as much as possible. He doesn't want him to be just an edge rusher. He wants to use him, again, like a Swiss Army knife. And so even if you're able to bring back Randy Gregory, I just think edge rusher, you have to address that. You're losing Dorrance Armstrong. He's going to be a free agent. So out of the guys that saw significant playing or saw a decent amount of playing time, really the only person, if you lose Lawrence, is Terrell Basham that's coming back. And I mean, he's fine as a backup, but I don't think you want to go into the season with him as one of your starters. So that would certainly be on there. And then it kind of goes right back over the other side of the ball. If you tell me Amari Cooper isn't going to be on this roster, receiver gets pretty high on that list, considering that Cedric Wilson's a free agent, Michael Gallup. So those would probably be a few areas.
John, did you see any of the quotes from Michael Gallup? I think he must have been on Radio Row or something, but I saw some quotes from him a little while ago talking about how Dak had told him at the start of the season that he's not going anywhere. He's obviously dealing with the injury as well, and says he hadn't really heard much from the Cowboys. Do you get any kind of a sense of sort of how they view him at the moment? And obviously the injury does come into play a bit.
I apologize. My phone cut out. Which player said this?
Michael Gallup. He did an interview. I don't know exactly where it was or who it was with. I just caught it a little bit earlier. It might have been on Radio Row for all I know. But he's just talking about how Dak had been telling him from the start of last season that he wasn't going anywhere, that he wasn't Gallup going anywhere. Said he hasn't really heard much. But do you get any kind of a sense on sort of where they view him in the pecking order right now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't get a great sense just because of the fact of he has to recover from the surgery now, and who knows when he'll be back to. I don't think you can go into this next season going, these type of injuries have the surgeries for these type of injuries have advanced so much to where, I think we can count on him week one. I don't think you can. I think if you get Michael Gallup back for another year, because I don't think he would sign a multi-year deal unless it's very team friendly. But let's say you get him back for another year, like you still don't know what you have until training camp. Like you can't bank on that when the draft comes around and free agency and things like that. So I feel like you have to almost do business as if you don't think you're going to have him back at least at the beginning of the season. So I haven't heard any update on that. But there's just a lot of cards to be played. If they're going to part ways with Amari Cooper, they certainly have enough money to bring back Cedric Wilson and Michael Gallup. But if they're going to bring back Amari Cooper, and I don't see how they have enough money for Michael Gallup or Cedric Wilson. And so one way or the other, I still feel like you're going to be addressing a wide receiver at some point in the draft. I'm not saying it'll be in the first or second round, but I feel like with the way this team goes about its business, this seems like a time when they would try and add another young wide receiver. And frankly, I think it's a position that it probably has the most depth from year to year in the draft, just with how much these colleges are using, 3 or 4 wide receivers in their offensive sets. Like, you should still be able to find some good value at wide receiver in the 4th, 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seemed like at one point, and it was true, you have Cooper, you have CeeDee Lamb, heck, you had Gallup, Cedric Wilson makes plays, and I mean I've never seen a team with so many receivers, and now all of a sudden you look up and a lot of that could be gone completely to rebuild it. And I thought their wide receiving core was spectacular, even though the end of the year it kind of shut down a little bit. Which of the potential free agents, maybe 1 or 2 names, John, and some might be more obvious than others, helped themselves the most this year with Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, Dalton Schultz is at the top of the list for me. I mean, you can say Randy Gregory because of the position he plays and putting together a full season like this, but Dalton Schultz really shot up the list. And to be, the type of pass catcher he turned into certainly wasn't what we were expecting when they drafted him, and what he flourished into, being one of Dak's favorite receivers. I think he priced himself into an area where I think it's safe to say he's gone. I just think there's going to be a team that gives him a decent amount of money, and that's the thing. Like, if you can find a good pass catching tight end who's in the prime career like Dalton Schultz, I mean, there's not a team in the league that doesn't want a guy like that. It's so important to have a player like that. So he's probably the first one I go to. But yeah, I mean, Randy Gregory, just because at edge rusher, I know he's getting up there in age, but the wear and tear on his body doesn't match up with it, with all the seasons that he's missed. And so when you start looking at that and just the value of what a guy that can get, that consistently gets after the quarterback, that's got to be very high on my list too. I think if Michael Gallup would have stayed healthy, I think he was, just because of this receiver class in free agency, I thought he was going to make himself a lot of money. But that obviously didn't happen because of the injury. So yeah, Schultz for sure is one that stands out to me, and then Randy, and then if there was going to throw in one more, I would say third would probably be J-Ron Curse. And the only reason he's third is just because the safety position doesn't command quite as much money as I think the other 2 will. I think that out of those 3, he's got the best chance of returning, and certainly with having Dan Quinn back, I think that improves those chances.
Do you think the salary cap issues that they have, which are not as bad as they have been in the past, but they're going to have to restructure and kick the can down the road on a few guys, will prevent them from maybe making a trade? Or, I mean, they're not ever really big in the free agent market, and don't expect them to, but like of doing something big to try to maximize Dak's window, because they're kind of maybe behind the 8 ball already now in that, because this year has come and gone, and they don't want to get into another situation like they had with Tony Romo where they wasted his window as well.
Right. And I think a lot of fans would agree with you and say that, yeah, it's time to go all in right now. And even if that means, having to kick it down the can down the road a little bit, wouldn't now be the time to do it? Dak's going to be 29 in July. Like, isn't this the time to do that? And I think that it is. I think that, I mean, Jerry always wants to talk about how he's not getting any younger and how, he doesn't have time for a bad time. So this would seem like it. And I think that a lot of people feel that way. And I think there'll only be more if the Rams win on Sunday, because that's just not going to be a Cowboys thing. If the Rams win on Sunday, every team in the NFL outside of maybe the Bengals, their fan base are going to be talking about, look at how they went all in on it. Why don't we do the same thing? Why isn't our team going all in on the way that they did and made all those big moves? Who cares about what's going to happen 5 years from now? Let's go after it right now. And where the Cowboys are built in terms of, their head coach is a veteran head coach. They have this, they were able to luckily bring back their offensive and defensive coordinator. Your franchise quarterback is in the prime of his career. If this isn't the time to go all in for it, I don't know when is.
I feel like I'm glad you said that, because it was fun when Jerry was like that. It was fun back when they would go and try to hit the home run. And, of course, I know that the teams that won those Super Bowls in the 90s, for the most part, were internally driven through what they did with those trades in the draft. But Dion and Haley and some of that stuff, they went after those type of players, and it was worth it. If I asked you right now, how many maybe draft picks, I guess you would want to say first or second round picks, how many would you give up to win a Super Bowl? I'd say, how many you want? Would you? Paul, John, wouldn't you, Craig? Wouldn't you guys? 5 of them.
That's the goal, yeah. I mean,
if I don't have
the Rams don't care about draft picks, and look where they are.
If they win it all, it's absolutely worth it, and it might be worth it even if they fall short again. But twice in recent years, to me, that's what it's about, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. Like, depending on what the player is, yeah, if it makes sense, I mean, I look back to the Amari Cooper thing, and even if that goes with them cutting him, like when that trade happened, you give up a first round pick, but where that team was and how badly they needed that player, I thought that made total sense. And so if there's another opportunity like that, and I say opportunity because, the Rams are pretty lucky they got Stafford. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, for a franchise to be as bad as the Lions so that they have to let this guy go because they want to do right by him, the fact that you were able to get this guy in the prime of his career already on a loaded team, I mean, I'm not going to say that there's those opportunities all the time, but if those opportunities come, like the Amari Cooper did for the Cowboys, they absolutely should be willing to trade multiple premium picks. If it means you're going to get a star that's ready to come in right now and make an immediate impact the way Amari Cooper did, the way Matthew Stafford has done this year, the way Odell Beckham has done for them, Von Miller, if you can get a guy like that, again, I just don't see that this isn't the time to do that, then when is? And if you don't do things like that, all it's going to do is it just puts more gasoline on the fire of those who believe that the Cowboys are fine with just being in the conversation. They're just fine. Hey, we don't want to, jeopardize the future or anything like that because we don't want to fall off a cliff like this Rams team. Let's be honest. This Rams team's probably falling off a cliff when Stafford's done. Aaron Donald's only got so many years left, and they're going to probably hit some bad times, or there's going to be 2 or 3 years where the Rams are probably one of the worst teams in the league. The Cowboys, there's a part of me that thinks that they're doing anything just so that they can avoid that. It's not about all going in right now. It's let's make sure we never in the foreseeable future are ever going to have to go off of a cliff like that and be bad for 2-3 years. Let's make sure we're just always in it every single year, whether that means 9-10 wins and give us a chance to make a run as opposed to doing what the Rams did. But like I said, the Rams win on Sunday. It's only going to increase that talk even more.
I wonder if Roy Williams and Joey Galloway have Jerry and Steven a little gun shy now because neither of those worked out at all.
That could be part of it, but I feel like Amari Cooper, I don't think you can judge him on that right now because Amari Cooper, if his contract was different, he'd still be here. I'm not saying he wouldn't be here. He's here right now. I'm saying that if his contract was different, we wouldn't even be talking about the potential of moving on from him. The way he's played, then they paid him the $20 million a year like a number one wide receiver, and obviously he didn't play that way this past year, and they didn't target him like one either. But I'd say that was a good move. I mean, to give up a late first round pick to get Amari Cooper, I don't know. And the other thing is too is I think that they did well in free agency. I thought they did well adding players in free agency. They have to trust Will McClay. So if he says, hey, this is a great opportunity, we have to go out and get this guy. Frankly, I don't care what happened with Roy Williams. They should go and do it.
All right, buddy. John, you got a pick for the game?
Everything that I feel like I see and everything that I read and everything that I know about football just screams Rams and, potentially the Rams by a lot. But this run Burrow's on, it's hard to go against. So I'm going to go Bengals 28-24. If like I said, I could see the Rams blowing them out. But if it's a close game, I'm leaning Bengals. And just the way these games, how great they've been, I think it's going to be a close game. I can't go against Burrow.
It's not. It's got to be in the conversation. Could be recency bias. John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Jon Machota, theathletic.com, with all the great playoff games. Been 6 fantastic games for the most part. So you would hope that the Super Bowl can match the crazy of what we've seen with some of the weekend of the conference, semifinals, I guess you could call them. Divisional playoffs, is that right, Paul? And then the conference championships as well. So that's where we are. Jon Machota, we appreciate that from theathletic.com. When we come back, Paul Catalina.